Hello and welcome back to my vlog. Wrapping up The Way to Wealth by Benjamin Franklin. This is part 3. But what madness it must be to run in debt for these superfluities. We are offered by the terms of this sale 6 months credit, and that perhaps has induced some of us to attend it because we cannot spare the ready money and hope now to be fine without it. But think what you do when you run in debt. You give to another power over your liberty. You cannot pay at the time. You will be ashamed to see your creditor. You will be in fear when you speak to him. You will make poor, pitiful, sneaking excuses, and by degrees come to lose your veracity and sink into base, downright lying. For the second vice is lying. The first is running in debt, as poor Richard says. And again, to the same purpose, lying rides upon debt's back. Whereas a free-born Englishman ought not to be ashamed nor afraid to see or speak to any man living, but poverty often deprives a man of all spirit and virtue. It is hard for an empty bag to stand upright. What would you think of that prince or of that government who should issue an edict forbidding you to dress like a gentleman or gentlewoman on pain of imprisonment or servitude? Would you not say that you were free, have a right to dress as you please, and that such an edict would be a breach of your privileges, and such a government tyrannical? And yet you are about to put yourself under that tyranny when you run in debt for such dress. Your creditor has authority at his pleasure to deprive you of your liberty by confining you in jail for life or by selling you for a servant if you should not be able to pay him. When you have got your bargain, you may perhaps think little of payment, but as poor Richard says, creditors have better memories than debtors. Creditors are a superstitious sect, great observers of set days and times. The day comes round before you are aware, and the demand is made before you are prepared to satisfy it. Or, if you bear your debt in mind, the term, which at first seems so long, will, as it lessens, appear extremely short. Time will seem to have added wings to his heels as well as his shoulders. Those have a short Lent who owe money to be paid at Easter. At present, perhaps you may think yourselves in thriving circumstances and that you can bear a little extravagance without injury. But, for age and want save while you may, no morning sun lasts a whole day. Gain may be temporary and uncertain, but ever while you live, expense is constant and certain, and it is easier to build 2 chimneys than to keep one in fuel, as poor Richard says. So rather go to bed supperless than rise in debt. Get what you can, and what you get, hold. 'Tis the stone that will turn all your lead into gold. And when you have got the philosopher's stone, sure you will no longer complain of bad times or the difficulty of paying taxes. 4. This doctrine, my friends, is reason and wisdom. But after all, do not depend too much upon your own industry and frugality and prudence, though excellent things, for they may all be blasted without the blessing of heaven. And therefore ask that blessing humbly, and be not uncharitable to those that at present seem to want it, but comfort and help them. Remember, Job suffered and was afterwards prosperous. And now to conclude, experience keeps a dear school, but fools will learn in no other, as poor Richard says, and scarce in that, for it is true. We may give advice, but we cannot give conduct. However, remember this, they that will not be counseled cannot be helped, and farther that if you will not hear reason, she will surely rap your knuckles, as poor Richard says. Thus the old gentleman ended his harangue. The people heard it, and approved the doctrine, and immediately practiced the contrary, just as if it had been a common sermon, for the auction opened, and they began to buy extravagantly. I found the good man had thoroughly studied my almanacs, and digested all I had dropped on these topics during the course of 25 years. The frequent mention he made of me must have tired anyone else, but my vanity was wonderfully delighted with it, though I was conscious that not a 10th part of the wisdom was my own, which he ascribed to me, but rather the gleanings that I had made of the sense of all ages and nations. However, I resolved to be the better for the echo of it, and though I had at first determined to buy stuff for a new coat, I went away, resolved to wear my old one a little longer. Reader, if thou wilt do the same, thy profit will be as great as mine. I am, as ever, thine to serve thee, Richard Saunders. Words of wisdom about the way to wealth. from Benjamin Franklin, a.k.a. Richard Saunders of Poor Dick's Almanac. Poor Richard's Almanac. Make it a great day, and bye for now.